This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Yeah. So, anyone having any issues while practicing, you can share the screenshot and also you can join 10 minutes early. 10 minutes before the session, you can join so that, so definitely I'll help you, right? So, afternoon time, morning time, so sometimes I'll be in sessions, right? So, that is why, so response will be delayed. So, better you can join 10 minutes early so that I'll be available. I'll fix that issues. You're facing any issues. Okay. Yeah. So today, yeah, so far any questions, anyone? Whatever the services we discussed in EC2. So how to create EC2 instance, Linux instance? How can we connect Linux instance? How can we create Windows instance? How can we connect Windows instance? So PEM to PPK, how can we convert? And also elastic IP, public IP, private IP, right? So how to download the, how to get the elastic IP from data center? How can we associate with the server? How can we deassociate? How can we release? Anyone having any questions so far? Yeah. So everyone follow the videos. Okay. So make sure everyone follow the video so that you will get yeah, some hands on that. You can easily just note down the steps and you can practice once you go through the video. Note down the steps and you can practice. So otherwise, every time you need to open the video, you need to check the recordings, right? So one time you can go through the recording and note down the steps and you can practice. Fine. Yeah. Now today we're going to start Linux. So Linux is very important for cloud and DevOps engineer, cloud engineers, DevOps engineers, right? So while working on Kubernetes, while working on Jenkins, while working on Git, while working on Terraform, we require Linux. And also, while working on AWS CLI, we require Linux commands in AWS. Okay. While working on, yeah, database service and also few services are there. EFS, Elastic File System. We need Linux commands. That is why we need to understand Linux. So today, tomorrow, day after, 3 days, we'll cover all the Linux services. Okay. So whatever services required for a DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, those we can cover here. So as per the content, okay. So we are not Linux admins. We don't need to learn entire Linux. Okay. So Linux admins required entire Linux. Fine. Yeah. So today's agenda here is what is Linux, what is operating system, types of operating systems, history of Linux, Linux origins, why Linux, architecture of Linux, advantage of Linux, disadvantage of Linux, Linux versus Windows, Linux file system hierarchy, Linux basic commands. Up to here we can cover today. So tomorrow we'll discuss about advanced commands. Day after tomorrow, deployment commands. Right. So yeah, Linux takes nearly 3 hours. Fine. Yeah. So what is Linux? Anyone having idea what is Linux?
Linux is operating system.
Yeah, Linux is an operating system, right? What is operating system? Anyone? Linux is an operating system. What is
Single
operating
user.
system? Operating system is a
Single single user.
single user. Okay. Yeah. So computer
It's a
hardware always
interface between
understand.
user and computer.
Yeah, computer hardware always understand binary language. Binary language, zeros and ones, right? Binary language is zeros and ones. 000 001 100 111, right? Yeah, computer hardware always understand binary language, but a human will not understand binary language. That is why we required some translator. We need a translator. So yeah, binary language to human readable language and human readable language to binary language, right? The conversion required here. So Here operating system is the mediator, is a translator. So we can say operating system is a interface between user and the computer hardware, right? Yeah, see here. Now what is Linux? Linux is a Unix like operating system. It can run on 32-bit and 64-bit hardware. So any type of hardware you can use, any hardware, either 32-bit, 64-bit. Yeah, so 10 years before, 15 years before, we used to use very old hardware, right? In that also, we used to run the Linux. Linux OS is freely distributable cross-platform support. So it is a free, right? And also multiple processors. Supports multiple processors, right? So in server normally multiple processor we use, right? Yeah, Linux supports true multitasking multi-user operating system. So multitasking at a time we can perform multiple tasks in Linux. Multi-user, multiple users, they can log in into the server at a time, right? So multitasking multi-user, multiple tasks we can perform, multiple users can log in into the Linux servers, Linux OS. So what is operating system? Operating system is a, yeah, Linux is a operating system. What is operating system? See here, operating system is an interface between user and the computer hardware. The hardware of the computer cannot understand the human readable language as it works on binaries, that is zeros and ones. In such case, we need an interface which can translate human language to hardware and vice versa for effective communication. Right? Now, types of operating systems. What are the types available? Single user, single tasking operating system. So in this type of operating system, only one user can log into the system. He can perform only one task at a time, which is single user, single tasking operating system. So for example, MS-DOS, Microsoft Data Operating System. So in this operating system, only one user can log into the system. He can perform only one task at a time. Second one is single user multitasking operating system. So in this type of operating system, so one user can log into the system. He can perform multiple tasks at a time, which is Windows. So in Windows, so one user can log into the system. He can perform multiple tasks while browsing internet. We can run background audios. While working on any activities, we can run audios, right? Yeah. Next one is multi-user multitasking operating system. So in this type of operating system, so multiple users they can log into the system. They can perform at a time multiple tasks, which is multi-user multitasking operating system, which is Linux, right? So why we are talking about Linux? Currently, most of the project teams, most of the data centers, 95% of the servers we are using Linux. So Linux is more secured, right? Reliable. We'll see that advantages. Okay. Yeah. So history of Linux is Mr. Linus Torvalds, who developed Linux kernel. In April 1991, Linus Torvalds, a 21 years old student at the University of Helsinki, Finland, started working on some simple ideas for an operating system. By September 1991, Linux version 0.01 was released on the FTP server of the Finnish University and Research Network. So this is the first version 0.01. So for this first version, he spent 10,239 lines of the code. He developed 10,239 lines of the code because by the time in 90s, so we used to use very old technologies, right? COBOL, Pascal, right? So that is why he spent 10,239 lines of the code. So currently we are using very advanced technologies, right? Scala, Python, Ruby, right? Yeah. So within 500 lines, we can develop 500 to 1000 lines, right? So the X Windows system was soon ported to Linux in March 1992. Linux version 0.95 was the first to be capable of running X. So this is the first capable version. This is the competitor for Windows capable version. Okay. Yeah. So after 1991, there were several commercial implementation of Linux released. Linux versions released after 1991. so many commercial versions released. Okay, so because the Linux kernel is freeware, right? Linus Torvalds developed the Linux kernel and he gave freeware free. So if the kernel is free, what will happen? Every organization they took the kernel, they designed their own flavors. They designed their own flavors, right? See here, Apple computers, they developed AUX. They took the Linux kernel, they developed AUX. AT&T's system release 3. They took the Linux kernel, they developed the system release 3. Hewlett Packard, they developed HP Unix. IBM AX, Linux, Linux, yeah, real-time Unix. Next step, right? Santa Cruz Operations Coinix, Silicon Graphics IRX, Sun Microsystems, Sun OS, Sun Solaris. So every organization they took the kernel, Linux kernel, they designed their own flavors. For example, we are using laptops, right? Dell laptop, HP laptop, Lenovo laptop, right? So in the laptop, what is the processor we are using? What is the processor we are using? Intel or AMD, right? So the processor is Intel or AMD, but the design is different design. So also, yeah. So in India, we are using Tata and Maruti Suzuki four wheelers, right? Instead of the vehicle, we are using Ford engine. So designs are different designs, right? But instead of the engine is Ford engine. So the same way, every organization they took the kernel, Linux kernel, so they designed their own flavors because kernel is free, provided by Linus Torvalds. Fine. Features of Linux operating system. What are the features available? So portability means software can work on different types of hardwares. Any hardware you can run this. Open source, right? Linux source code is freely available. So it is a free for every user they can use, right? And multiple users they can access the resources at a time. Multi-programming, multiple programs you can run at a time. Hierarchical file system. So in Linux we have file system hierarchy. I'll show you that. Shell, Linux provides a special interpreter program so which can be used to execute commands of the operating system. It can be used to do various types of operations, call operation, programs, etc. Security. Linux provide user security using so authentication features like password protection, control access to specific file, and encryption of data. Right? Yeah. So this is the architecture of Linux. So in architecture we have four layers: hardware layer, kernel, shell, and application programs. Right? So let us go with one by one. Hardware layer. Hardware consists of all peripheral devices like RAM, CPU, storage, hard drive, etc. Kernel is the core component of the operating system, interacts directly with hardware, provides low level services to upper layer components. Shell. Shell an interface to kernel, hiding complexity of kernel's functions from users. Takes commands from user and executes kernel's functions. Utilities. So utility programs giving user most of the functionalities of an operating system. These are the four components available, four layers in the architecture. So Linux versus Windows. So both offer some of the graphic capabilities and including some networking capabilities, but Linux networking is excellent. So here they are saying something like both offer some of the graphic capabilities. So Windows is having graphics, Linux also having. Anyone having idea? So Windows is having graphics, Linux is also having.
One line.
Fine. Yeah, so Windows is having only GUI, graphical user interface, but Linux is having GUI and also CLI. GUI, graphic user interface. CLI means command line interface. graphical user interface, command line interface, right? So Linux is having both CLI, GUI. But in real-time projects, we always use the CLI, command line interface. So in our practice sessions also, we use the CLI only. Understand, right, everyone? Yeah. So Linux is multi-user multitasking, but Microsoft Windows does not support it, right? So in Windows, at a time, 100 users, 200 users, they cannot log in. Okay. Yeah. So Windows does not support. Advantage of Linux. So it's free and open source. Linux is portable to any hardware platform. We can run on any hardware platform. Linux require minimal hardware configuration. Linux containers work well even when the hard disk is almost full. So this is very important advantage. Linux containers work well even when the hard disk is almost full. So for example, in our laptop or desktop or server, in our laptop or desktop, for example, yeah, so C drive is full, for example, what will happen? C drive is full, what will happen? Windows will not work properly, right? So it will restart sometime, slowness issues, hung issues, we'll get so many issues, right? Yeah. But here, Linux side, so even though Windows servers also, say the server drive is full, so it will restart every moment, it will restart, or hung state issues, hung issues, or slowness issues, performance issues, right? But Linux side, Linux contains work well even when the hard disk is almost full. So Linux, if the drive is full, nothing will be happen, right? Next one, Linux can run almost forever without any reboot. It's stable. So normally every month we install patches in Linux servers and Windows servers. So in Windows servers, once we install the patches means updates. In our mobile, we get updates, right? Android mobile, Apple mobile, monthly updates we get, right? Same way, server side also, Microsoft release the patches for Windows and Red Hat release the patches for Linux. So every month we need to install the patches, make sure the server should be restarted. So Windows side server should be restarted, but Linux side without restart also we can use the server. So it's stable, right? So in our previous project, so last 5.5 years, 6 years, we haven't restarted Linux servers. Okay, still they are alive, running properly. Okay, next one, Linux operating system does not slow down with time. Linux operating systems comes with some inbuilt software like OpenOffice, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Firefox, CVD, CD, DVD, Burner, etc. So Linux GUI, in Linux GUI, we can use the Word, PowerPoint, Excel. These applications we can use. Linux is one of the most secure operating systems. The large number of Linux distributions give you HOS. So many distributions available, so many flavors available in Linux. Okay. Next one, Linux OS and most Linux applications have very short debug time. Linux OS and most Linux applications have very short debug. Debugging means, yeah, troubleshooting, issue fixing, error fixing, right? So quickly we can resolve the, yeah. So very faster. It will, yeah. Normally, compare with Windows, very short debug time here. Next one. So if there were widespread Linux virus released today, so normally sometimes viruses release, right? In Linux, so widespread Linux virus released today, there would be hundreds of patches will be released tomorrow. So immediately Red Hat release the patches to fix the viruses. So Windows also same, but they take some time. But Linux, yeah, Red Hat and Ubuntu, Red Hat and Debian, they give very good support here. Quickly they release the patches to fix the viruses. Okay. Next one, disadvantage of Linux. There is no standard edition of Linux here. So many editions are available, right? Next one, Linux is very user. It is not very user friendly and confusing for beginners. So Windows is user friendly, right? So we can navigate simply. But Linux is not very user friendly and confusing for beginners. So initially, so when we start working on Linux, we'll have a little confusion. So once you start working on Linux, it is very easier. You can easily handle. Okay. So these are the folder structures available in Linux. Even Windows also having folder structure like program files, Windows files, program folders, program files folder, Windows folder, temp folder, like that, right? Same way in Linux also. So root, boot, bin, var, etc, right? Media, like this folder structure is available. So on top of this all folders, there is a slash. This is, we can say, parent directory. So these are all directories. Folders are directories, you can say, right? So on top of these folders, we have parent directory. So if you want to call this root, we can call it as first parent slash root slash boot slash bin slash var slash etc, like this. Fine. See here. Slash bin. What is slash bin? User binaries slash sbin, system binaries slash etc, configuration files slash dev, device files slash proc, process information slash var, variable files slash temp, temporary files slash usr, user programs, like this. Yeah, every folder is having some functionality here. So opt, optional applications, like this. See here. Yeah. So why Linux? Why the project teams are using Linux here? What are the benefits here? See here. It is free and open source, secure, so many distributions available, very fast performance, right? So no viruses, no malwares, no slowdowns, no crashes, no costly repairs. That is why. So every organization they're using Linux for server side, Windows for desktop side. Okay. So this is just introduction. Now let's try to understand first set of commands. Linux first set of commands. Okay. So first of all, when we log in into the Linux, so we open in $prompt, dollar prompt. So this is a normal user prompt. This is normal user prompt, right? In normal user prompt, so major activities like troubleshootings or any, if you want to deploy any packages, if you want to fix any issues, right? We'll get some permission issues. That is why what we will do, we switch to a root. Switch to root. How can we switch to root? Sudo space -i is the command to switch root. So root is a, see here, root is a hash prompt. Once you execute this command, it will be changed to hash prompt, which is, we can say, a root prompt, right? Yeah. After that, so normally when we log in our server, once we log into the server, it will show you the server IP address, server IP, right? So at a time, if you open 10 servers, 10 EC2 instances, we will be confused. Normally we'll be confused because, which service belongs to which project, which service belongs to which applications, which service belongs to which owner, will be confused. That is why what we will do, we can change the host name space server name to change the server name. So after that, we need to execute, yeah, exec bash, execute bash to reflect the host name. Okay, yeah. After that, so for example, if you want to check the date and time, just give date to check the date and time. So after that, so if you want to check the calendar, just give cal to check the current month calendar. To check the current month calendar. So if you want to check the previous year calendar, command here is cal space month space 2020, for example. Okay, to check old calendar. Right. After that, if you want to check the present working directory, just give pwd to check present working directory. So if you want to check the user which you log in, you can give who. So one more command is there, who am I? Who am I? To check the present user, to check the present user. Right. So these are all very basic commands, very basic commands, very basic commands. And also if you want to check users, just give users to check all the users. Right. Yeah. So after that, so there, yeah, we have first set of commands. First set of commands, which are very basic commands. We can say basic Linux commands, which are first set of commands. Yeah, which are creating, removing, copying, and moving files and directories. Files and directories. So how can we create a file? How can we remove the file? How can we copy the file? How can we move the file? So these are first set of commands. These are very basic commands. So these commands we need to understand first. Okay. So before going to execute, theoretically we can understand first. Okay. So we can create one server and we can execute this tomorrow. So first theoretically we can understand today. Okay. So these commands are very, very important. If you understand these commands, you can easily understand advanced commands, deployment commands. Okay. For example, if you want to create a file, what are the command we use? Anyone? So if you want to create a file, what are the command we
Touch,
use?
touch.
Touch is also, yeah, command, but before touch,
VI, Vim Editor,
vi also
VI,
fine.
Vim
But
Editor.
yes, vi editor also fine. But before that, very basic command is there. For that, there is a basic command, very basic command. Create a
CD.
cd is change directory. Before that, cd is the change directory, not creating file. Okay, for creating file. Before touch, before vi, we used to use one command which is very basic command, which is cat command.
Cat, right.
Cat space greater than space file name
File name.
to create a file, right? Yeah, once we execute this command, the syntax here is example cat space greater than space file 1. So once you execute this command, it will ask you to enter the content. So it will wait for the content. So we can add some content here. Hello world or something you can add here. And if you want to save this file, if you want to save this file, control plus D to save the file. To save the file. So once you save the file, now if you want to check the file, ls is the command. Ls. So ls is a command to list files and directories. To list files and directories, we use the ls command, right? So ls list files and directories. After that, for example, there is a file which is a file one, right? Once we execute the ls command, it is showing file one. So if you want to read the content inside of the file, there is a file. I want to read the content inside of the file. What is the command we use?
Less. Less file
Fi-
name.
Yeah, ls file name. Ls is the
No,
command to
le less file name. You can less on a file name, right? LESS, and then you can.
uh, okay, that is fine. That is filter command. That is filter command. So before that, basic commands. We are talking about basic commands.
Okay.
Less, more, those are available. That we will discuss on Monday. So I'm talking about basic commands, very basic commands. So if you want to read the content inside of the file, there is a command which is again cat file name to read content in the file. Okay, yeah. So after that, there is a file which is the file one, right? Now in this file one, there is a content hello world, right? So now I want to add few more lines inside of this file. I want to add few more lines here. So for which what we will do,
Yeah.
cat space double greater than space file name to append the lines, to append the content in, to append content in the file, to append content in the file. If you want to add few more lines, so what example, cat double greater than file one, it will ask you to add the content here. So now, yeah, Linux session, like this, you can add some content. So after that,
D.
control plus D. Yeah. So the file will be saved. Okay. So again, if you want to read the content inside of the file, how can we read?
Cat. Cat
Cat
file.
cat file name, right? Yes, correct. Now next one. So if you want to create multiple files at a time, what is the command? I want to create 5 files at a time. Touch. File one already there. File two, file three, file four, file five, file six, like this, right? So yeah, like this you can create files. right? Yeah, so like this you can get the multiple files to create multiple files. Now I want to create 100 files or 1000 files. What is the shortcut to create 100 files or 1000 files? There is a shortcut here. Okay, touch xyz is the file name, curly open, one dot dot to 100 files or 1000 files. To create multiple files by using shortcut right. Next one, how to create directory. How to create directory. Directory is a folder. How can we create? Anyone?
CD direct
MKDIR.
Yes.
mkdir.
Yes, mkdir, make directory. Mkdir is make directory. Mkdir directory name to create directory, right? Yeah, once we create the directory, now I want to go to inside of the directory. So to create directory, so example here is mkdir Jenkins, directory name Jenkins, for example. So after that, if you check ls, yeah, it will show you the to list files and directories. It will show you the files and directories. Okay, after that, if you want to go to inside of the directory, if you want to move to inside of the directory, how can we move?
CD.
Yes, cd directory name.
CD Jenkins.
Yeah, so cd means change directory, to switch directory. Okay, example we can use cd
Jenkins.
Jenkins. Yes. So after that, if you want to exit from the directory, if you want to come out from the directory,
CD
cd
dot dot
space,
dot
yeah,
dot.
cd space dot dot to exit from the directory. Yeah, after that, if you want to create multiple directories at a time, I want to create 200 directories at a time. So for which what I will do, mkdir shortcut, mkdir Jenkins curly open, one dot dot 200 to create multiple directories, right? Yeah. Next one, if you want to copy file into directory, if you want to copy file into directory, what are the command we use?
CP.
Cp,
Yes.
cp source file name and
Destination.
destination directory. Source file name, destination directory. To copy file into directory. Yeah. Next one, if you want to move the file into directory, if you want to move file
mv
into
mv
MV.
yes, mv,
MV
mv
file
source file name and destination
directory.
directory. To move the directory. So what is the difference between cp and mv? Anyone?
it is copying, it is moving. Moving means it will permanently it will move from there
It
Yes,
won't copy.
on copy.
fine. So copy and moving difference here is, so when we copy the file, Once we copy the file, so the file will be available in source place as well as
Yes.
destination place. But when we move the file will be completely moved from source to destination, right? Yeah. And also, just like copy paste, cut paste, we can see here. Okay. Next one, if you want to delete the file,
RM.
rm is the command to delete the file.
Remove.
Rm file name to remove the file, to remove or delete. So if you use rm command, what will happen? It will ask you yes or no. Once you execute this, for example, rm file 1, you gave enter. It will ask you yes or no every time. So if you want to delete the file forcefully without any interaction, what is the command we use?
RM
Rm,
RF.
yes, rm space hyphen rf. What is rf, anyone? Rf hyphen rf.
Recursive
Remove,
force.
remove.
Yeah, recursively and also forcefully, right? To remove the file forcefully. Okay. So if you want to delete the directory, what is the command we use?
RMDIR file directory name.
Yes. RMDIR directory name, right? To remove the directory. So if you want to remove, yeah. So for example, there is a directory. Instead of the directory, we have different files, different folders are available inside of the directory. So by the time if you execute this command, you will get error. The directory is not empty. It will show you error. So if the directory is not empty, we need to execute another command. What is that? Anyone having idea? Only empty directory you can delete by using this command, right? The directory is not empty. What is the command we use to delete the directory? Rm space hyphen rf directory name to delete. So inside of the directory we have files. Okay, right. Okay. So these are the first set of commands which are very important commands. So these commands we can execute tomorrow. We'll take one server tomorrow. So we'll create one server tomorrow and we can execute one by one all the commands. So after that, we'll jump into advanced commands like filter commands, file permissions, user management, and also find command. Different commands are there. So tomorrow we'll work on advanced commands. So after that, we'll jump into deployment commands. How can we deploy the applications? How can we download the applications? How can we change the applications? Those we'll discuss. Clear, Andy? Any questions here, anyone? Yeah, tomorrow practically we'll execute all the commands and we'll check all the commands. Fine? Yeah, so we can wind up here. So if you want to try these commands, you can try in the Linux server. I'll show you tomorrow. Fine? Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.